A Nigerian Air Force helicopter crashed and exploded in Port Harcourt, Rivers State in the early hours of Friday. A statement issued by NAF spokesman, Air Commodore Ezewuike, disclosed that the helicopter was on a mission against economic sabotage when the incident occurred. He noted that the cause of the crash remains unknown, but all 5 crew members survived with minor injuries and have been evacuated for treatment. The NAF spokesman added that the incident serves as a stark reminder of the risks associated with military flying and the challenges faced by NAF personnel in defending the nation against criminal activities. To take a look at this latest crash, we are joined by Salaudeen Hashimu, I beg your pardon. Thank you very much for joining us. He's a security expert. Good to see you. This is the second NAF helicopter crash in 1 month. From a security perspective, give voice to some of the worries that's been expressed about aviation and safety experts.
All right, I think this is becoming quite incessant considering the challenges that has confronted the sector. If you recall that the then Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Oladayo Abo, had set up a committee in 2021, basically to take a look at the challenges confronting the regular crash and challenges confronting the safety of personnel and their platforms. And this committee was set up immediately after the then Chief of Army Staff also suffered similar incident. And of course, in Kaduna, alongside 10 senior military officers. And then, of course, if you recall, shortly before then, a Beechcraft B3501 also crashed in Basa Aviation, where also they were going for a similar situation after the engine developed a fault. And in terms of reference of this committee, strategically were 3. Amongst others. And one of them is to analyze the safety reports from the operational and engineering units of the Nigerian Air Force to do that audit generally. And then, of course, conduct safety evaluation of the Nigerian Air Force units. And then finally recommend measures to enhance the safety of operations of this unit. Unfortunately, none of these particular reports has seen the light of the day. That is 1. 2, there has not been any deliberate political investment in terms of how we also maintain. I must confess that the outgone administration did very well in terms of procurement of platforms, particularly very delicious air assault. Unfortunately, what we have is also the unfortunate culture of maintenance in this country, where huge budgetary allocation go into maintaining infrastructure, but unfortunately, conduit and then, of course, some level of leakages then are confronted with this. And of course, at the end of the day, personnel who man those platforms suffer the consequences. So what we are seeing is actually the consequences of some kind of accountability gap in the entire management of defense spending, because if you look at budgetary allocations that goes into maintenance and that goes into, they roll into millions. But what we have seen is not an external threat, but it is an internal re-evaluation that requires re-engineering, and then of course to do some kind of safety check and regularly consult with the maintenance inventory of what we have. We do not maintain, we procure, and then of course we put the lives of those who man those platforms at risk. For me, these are dangers that are looming, and then of course the consequences might be that we might continue to lose personnel if we do not do something differently.
Salaudeen, there's something you said. I don't know if I got it right. You talked about accountability gap. This is the military we're talking about. Are you saying that they're dropping the ball? Whose responsibility would it be to ensure some sort of accountability to safeguard lives?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I've worked in this sector for over a decade, and I can tell you that defense spending is one of the critical challenge that requires additional additional search, and then of course pay some additional attention to it. And that is simply put because there seems to be some level of entrepreneurship going on, particularly taking advantage of these counterinsurgency measures going on in different parts of the country. So this in itself has consistently swelled the challenges of the amount that goes into that. In fact, at a particular time, defense spending was taking about 25% of our national budget. And that is simply put because government was interested in making sure that they contain, they prevent, and of course, they deter any threat that was coming. And of course, it was an open check because the police wasn't doing so well. And then, of course, the military would always come to the rescue. And to be very honest, they have played a very significant role in terms of helping to stabilize internal security. But the consequence and the challenge here is that it has actually opened up a new Pandora box. And the Pandora box it has opened is the fact that there seem to be some challenges confronting the manner within which spendings are made. Yes, you have units who have responsibilities to do audit checks, but the question would be, do they just mark those things on the manifest, or are they actually going through regular and routine services? Because there should be routine services and evaluation and recommendation regarding platforms and of course the kind of thing that should go through.
That's actually the area I wanted you to speak on. Whose responsibility should it be to, beyond checking the boxes, ensure that what needs to be done is done so that we don't have the loss of life that can be avoided?
You know, the challenge with what we do is that we are very creative in this part of the world. Most times what we do is that so long as we update the records, and then of course the reality does not say the same. And that also provides the kind of conflict, because records will definitely show, because of course there is money to be spent and those monies have actually been deployed. And of course they have, but unfortunately the question that should be asked is, has this actually been done? But of course, because you know the economy in all of our budgetary allocations, and then of course the economy of public, and then of course also the challenge that confronts the issue of our budgeting. It is not needs-based. Budgeting are just done straight jacket for purposes, and I think this is also something that the defense leaders and the top brass should look at in a way to suggest that they must find some level of solution. And one of the quickest recommendations is that we must have maybe some kind of armed forces service commission. That kind of commission can help to provide some level of direct oversight. I can guarantee you there is an oversight gap in terms of what goes on in all of these things.
All right.
The National Assembly provides that impartial oversight, but of course that is not sufficient. I think more still needs to be done.
All right. 2 incidents this year. In 2021, we know that at least 20 military officers lost their lives within 3 months in 3 crashes, also involving NAF jets. What I want to ask is, was there a record of any investigation made public as to the cause of that crash? How open are the military with such investigations, and should they be open for accountability's sake?
Strategic communication is actually one of the biggest assets that rules counterterrorism and, of course, even modern security. Modern security architecture suggests that communication also is one of the life wires that enhances trust and confidence. But unfortunately, we didn't see that happen. And that, for me, also was a setback, because when that committee was set up by the then Chief of Air Staff, that report was never made public. So that suggests that there was something that requires even the media to pay some level of additional attention into. And then, of course, even for civil society to also begin to engage and make demands and say, look, we have lost a very valuable asset within the military. Well, we want to know what exactly went wrong. That particular report was not made public. So the opacity within that particular sector is something also that we need to put some searchlight on and put it on the spot. You cannot actually be engaging citizens, and of course, owing that you need to also debrief and find some kind of exit on a particular subject, then of course what we just hear is when another one happens, then of course everybody begins to run from pillar to post. That is not modern security engagement. We must actually be proactive in terms of disclosure, and of course offer the kind of inroad that allows for people to have a kind of communication infrastructure that allows them to engage very constructively.
All right, Salaudeen Hashimu, a security expert, thank you very much for speaking with us. We appreciate the insight.
Thank you very much for having me.